a strategy today. Not so much a strategy, but how to consider differences in AI models when you're coming up with a content strategy for GEO, SEO/GEO purposes. I recently wrote this blog post comparing different methodologies for GEO across ChatGPT, AI mode, and AI overviews based on sources and prompt tracking data. And basically what this addresses is a common mistake that I see people make when they use prompt tracking data or they try to come up with a GEO strategy in particular. So let me switch over to my prompt tracking tool here. Wait for my picture to reload. There we go. So one of the first mistakes I see people make is up here you have filters for different models, different topics as well, and tags. If you're interested in that, I have a separate video on basically how to use Peak AI. But I want to talk about the models specifically here. So a common mistake I see people make is they go, we want our AI visibility to go up, so we're going to have a universal content strategy for GEO purposes. But the reason that's not correct is because the models operate differently. They have different backend functionality and they rely on different sources. So you can see over here on the right-hand side, this is the visibility numbers for prompts that I track currently. If I filter by different models, ChatGPT, for example, I'm at 0%, AI overviews, I'm at 1%, and then AI mode, I'm at 2%. So it varies based on the model, and that's because the sources the models are pulling for their prompts that I'm tracking are different. And so I want to go into a specific prompt, and this is a prompt that I looked at in the article, and the article actually targets this prompt, so that's why it's a little bit meta. But it's compare different methodologies for effective GEO across various AI search models. So one of the things I noticed when I looked at this prompt is, for example, let's start with ChatGPT and let's look at the sources. So again, these are sources contributing to mentions in the chats related to this prompt. And so the sources are a GEO guide from GEO Ready, GEO versus AEO versus LLMO SEO, another GEO guide, a research paper from Archive, what is GEO from promptarchitect.app. So it's a lot of like holistic GEO guides mixed in with some academic papers, for example. But that's kind of the landscape that ChatGPT is pulling from. What's interesting is if we switch over to, say, AI overviews, now the landscape changes. We're seeing completely different sources. And a big thing here is we're seeing a lot of YouTube videos. Here we have 3 YouTube videos, which weren't present in the ChatGPT sources. Also, I do a breakdown in the article, which I'll go into in a second, but the nature of the sources is also a little bit different. They're not necessarily definitive guides here. Maybe it's a little bit more actionable information. Maybe it's some official guidance from Google. But the main point here is that the sources change. And if we go to AI or AI mode, for example, we see some crossover with sources. Like some of these sources are similar. So we see the Jotform video that we saw for AI overviews, for example. But again, the sources are mostly pretty different. And I think like the main takeaway is that if you're optimizing for your AI visibility, you need to understand not only which prompt or topic that you're going after, but which model, because the sources that the model pulls from are going to be different. And so I'll jump back to my article here. And basically I show the different sources here and I explain kind of like what the differences are. So if you're interested in that, check out the article. But the main takeaway here is that ChatGPT was into like reference, editorial, academic content. AI mode is more into corporate guides, comparisons, and video. And then AI overviews is more into actionable guides, official Google guidance, and video. So there is more overlap between AI mode and AI overviews. There's also more of a preference for YouTube in those than we saw for ChatGPT. But the main point is that the sources are going to be different, and so the strategy needs to be different. And that was sort of my ultimate takeaway, is that there isn't a single GEO content formula that guarantees visibility across every AI platform. Different platforms will treat different sources for different reasons. So that means you need a cross-platform GEO SEO strategy, and you need to focus on a portfolio of helpful content as opposed to like one definitive guide. So if you're trying to improve your AI visibility, it's not going to be about one single piece of content necessarily. It's going to be about creating a portfolio of helpful content that shows that you have topical authority for that area of knowledge that you're trying to get visibility for. So I hope this was helpful and informative. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me. Thanks for your time.